I grew up as a big fan of Porsche, and chances are you did too. Over the years, this car brand from Stuttgart has become a global presence with a worldwide, almost cult-like following. People love Porsche so much so that some of these cars even have over 1 million kilometers on them. But if you really get down to it, Porsches are quite simple. They don't have the excitement of a Lamborghini or the flair of a Ferrari, but somehow they capture hearts right around the world. I grew up with my dad's Porsche posters on the walls and radio-controlled cars around the house. I built the Legos, went to the Stuttgart Museum, and told myself that I would get one as soon as I could afford it, being lucky enough to spend the past 18 months happily daily driving an old Porsche Cayenne S. But a few weeks ago, one of my colleagues was kind enough to let me drive their 911 997 and let me take some shots of it, during which a lot of things about the Porsche brand finally clicked for me. So in this video, I want to talk a bit about the psychological and aesthetic choices that Porsche have made to get people interested and invested in a brand that really hasn't changed all that much over the past few decades. Because Porsche do more than just build cars, they also create a culture and they inspire people to want to be part of that culture with their history and the way they market themselves and even the design choices they make. Porsche do things a little bit different. So let's get into it. Number 1, a timeless design. Let's start with the obvious. If you look at a 1964 Porsche 911 and put it next to a 2025 Porsche 911, you can immediately tell that they are related. The same rounded headlights, the same sloping roofline. They've evolved, sure, but the DNA is the same. Now, as with anything popular, there's always going to be a group of people who dislike the thing. And when it comes to Porsche, there are definitely people who criticize Porsche for not changing enough over the years, or just with their general design language kind of having a bit of a frog-like appearance. And I can definitely see that, but for the most part, most people seem to enjoy the design language of Porsche. And when you have something that is sort of universally appreciated, it makes it very easy for people to get invested into the brand. Whether you don't know anything about cars or you're a full-blown petrol head, either person can enjoy the look of a nice Porsche driving past. Porsche is a really good example of evolutionary design, where a product changes gradually over time instead of being completely redesigned every few years. This can sometimes be called laziness, but there's really strong psychology behind why this works so well. It was found that people are more likely to develop emotional attachment to products that have design consistency over time. It creates a sense of familiarity and trust. You're not just buying a car, you're buying into a legacy. Compare that to most car brands where models get completely redesigned every 5 to 10 years and look nothing like their predecessors. You lose that visual continuity. But with Porsche, a 911 from the 1970s still feels like the same family as one from today. On top of that, Porsche uses a lot of curved organic shapes in their design. If you've watched my aesthetics video, then you might recall that our brains associate curves with nature, comfort, and flow. Soft designs feel less aggressive and more timeless than sharp, angular designs. And because the design has stayed so consistent, Porsches have become instantly recognizable. You don't need to put a badge on a Porsche for people to know exactly what it is. And in a world where attention has become a very strong currency, being instantly recognizable is a very valuable thing to have. This also creates something psychologists call the mere exposure effect. The more we see something, the more we like it. Because Porsche's design language has been consistent for decades, we've been exposed to it over and over across generations, and that repetition builds quite a bit of a fiction. So when someone like me says they've wanted a Porsche since they were a kid, that's not just a happy accident, that is years of design consistency working its magic. Number 2, the daily driver. Alright, so as insanely cool as most supercars are, they do have a bit of a problem. You can't really use them for daily life. Something like a Lamborghini is without a doubt an amazing piece of machinery. But when you have to bring it into daily life, such as driving through traffic or trying to park in a tight spot or even just going over a speed bump, it starts falling apart a little bit. And part of this is just because most supercars are designed to be special, and they are, but that makes them terrible at being normal. It makes them very difficult to use in everyday scenarios. But Porsche have a slightly different approach. They've approached themselves as the everyday supercar. Now, obviously, you've got models such as the Cayenne, the Macan, the Panamera, and even the Taycan, which can all act as super functional everyday cars. But even something like a 911 is a car you could reasonably drive every day. You can take it out for weekend sprints on the open road, you can cruise comfortably through city streets, and since it even has back seats, you could arguably call it a family car, provided no one in the back seat is actually adult shaped. And this practicality aspect is a massive part of Porsche's appeal, especially for people buying these cars, because it's not a garage queen that you take out twice a year. It's something that you could reasonably live with. If you only drive your supercar on special occasions, it stays a novelty. But if you drive your Porsche every day, it becomes part of your identity. Porsche has also mastered something called versatility signaling. It's something that a lot of shoe brands try to nail, but in essence, by making a product that works in multiple contexts, like a car that works for a business meeting, a weekend getaway, or a track day, they are saying this product fits into your life, no matter what that life looks like. And that's why you see a lot of Porsche owners who genuinely love their cars. They're not just looking at them from a distance, they're actually using them. These cars are a part of their lives and a part of their story. And you can even see this in online Porsche listings. These cars all have long stories to tell because they were part of the owner's history. And personally, from owning this older Cayenne and speaking to other Porsche owners, I realized that a lot of care goes in from Porsche's side to finding this balance between performance and comfort. It's a brand that doesn't necessarily ask you to choose between a fun car and a practical car. It actually lets you have both if you want it. And that want part is quite important, which brings me to the third and final point. Number 3, the attainable dream. Alright, so Porsches on average are not considered cheap, but they're also not ludicrously expensive. It's something that you feel like you can actually work towards instead of being this performance car that's only reserved for billionaires. Unlike brands like Ferrari or Rolls-Royce, which feel completely out of reach for 99% of people, Porsche has positioned itself as the aspirational luxury brand. It's expensive, but it's not impossible. Models like the Macan and the Cayenne are in the same ballpark as a loaded BMW or Mercedes SUV. Porsche isn't just for the ultra wealthy, it's for successful professionals who can make this car part of their everyday life. And you could argue that yes, something like a Cayenne or a Macan is no 911, and you'd be completely right. But it's still a Porsche, and it still feels special to drive. Regardless of which car it is sitting on, there's a lot of history and heritage behind that crest. It tells a story of the people who make and drive these kinds of cars. They are portrayed as cars for people who want to be present for the driving experience, whether that be an insane GT3 RS that can warp space-time, or an old 944 that still has some stories to tell. And speaking of an old Porsche, that brings me to the other reason why Porsche feels attainable, especially nowadays, and that is because of the used market. Because Porsche has been around for so long, there are a lot of models to choose from, and because they've been making great cars for a long time, you can still get the full Porsche experience without necessarily buying the newest one on the showroom. It keeps the brand accessible while still maintaining some exclusivity. You're not buying a car that's going to be worth nothing in 5 years, plus the enjoyment that comes with it is hard to put a number on for Porsche fans. And I think this overall idea of making the dream real is a really important part of why a lot of people come back to Porsche. When something feels attainable but difficult, you can plan for it, you can save for it, and you can make it something that you'll achieve at some point. So to wrap it all together, why are some people so obsessed with Porsche? First up, decades of consistent evolutionary design have created familiarity and emotional attachment. That curved iconic silhouette isn't just pretty, it's psychologically sticky. Next, Porsche gives you performance and practicality. You can drive it daily, which builds a real relationship with the car instead of just admiring it from afar. And lastly, Porsche feels possible. With entry-level models, strong resale value, and a ladder of aspiration within the brand, owning one becomes a goal rather than a fantasy. So with all that being said, I hope you found this interesting, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.